as you've gathered, I'm out on a bike, enjoying a bike ride at the moment, slightly out of breath because I've just cycled up a hill, and I invested in a bike about 3 months ago, and I've really enjoyed being out and about cycling. Physical exercise is really important for me. I used to enjoy jogging. Unfortunately, my knees and my hips didn't, and my body was telling me that it really wasn't right for me anymore. So I've had to knock that on the head. But I wanted to do something else physical, but also something that got me out in nature, because I find nature really rejuvenating. Some of you will know, if you've worked with me, that I used to suffer from depression really badly. At times it was really debilitating and paralysing. And those of you that have suffered with depression or still do suffer with depression will also know how the anxiety that sometimes goes with it is really crippling. And over a period of years, I've had to find different ways to deal with it, and different ways to manage it, and different ways to allow it to stay sleeping. And I think with depression, for me, I think once you've had it, I don't think it ever goes away fully. I think it becomes dormant, so it starts to go to sleep, and every now and then it wakes up. And for me, having some aspect of physical exercise and also journaling are the two key things that really help me manage it, particularly at those times when I feel it's starting to rise or be a little bit more prevalent, perhaps within the background of my mind. The physical aspect of it really keeps me in my body, and it also gives me a sense of physical stamina and physical strength. And when I feel strong physically, it helps me to feel strong mentally and emotionally. And the journaling has been really essential, because it enables me to get my thoughts and my feelings out where I can see them clearly. Sometimes when things are wrapped up in your head, you don't have the same level of clarity that you do when you see something written down on paper. So everybody uses different strategies and different supports, but they're the supports that I use, and I'm really thankful to say that depression has been sleeping for quite a significant time now, which is really great. When I look back upon things, depression started to make itself known and started to become a real problem for me, either when I felt out of control in my life, or as though my life wasn't in my control, and also when I felt really overwhelmed. And I noticed particularly a few years ago, when I was looking through my diary for the year at the beginning of the year, with work and with services, I only had 4 weekends throughout the year that were totally free, and I could feel that sense of panic start to rise up. And that was when I actually pinpointed that feeling overwhelmed and feeling as though life was spiraling out of my control were things that actually caused depression to rise within me. So I tend to look now upon depression as my friend. I tend to think that if I start to feel it start to rise, as though there are a couple of triggers, there are certain ways that I start to feel that tell me I'm either not recognising that I'm starting to feel slightly overwhelmed, or I need to look at where I'm in alignment with my body, with my spirit, with my feelings and with my thoughts. And if I can do that, then I move back into alignment, and the friend that's keeping an eye on me goes back to sleep. And if I don't do something, then the friend starts to knock on my door a little bit more strongly. Obviously, I was talking briefly about depression earlier, and that feeling of overwhelm that sometimes kickstarts it off. And that feeling of overwhelm sometimes also comes in when we're experiencing lots of changes. And when we're experiencing lots of changes, sometimes we doubt our ability to cope with those changes, and we doubt our resilience and our resourcefulness. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I realised that I could cope with change in any area of my life, or in most areas of my life, as long as there was at least one area of my life that was stable. The overall learning process for me, and for my mind actually, more importantly for my mind, has been to understand that I can cope with change, I can cope with situations I'm not expecting, and I do have the resourcefulness, the resilience and the ability to deal with life and with the changes that happen in life. So my last musings on this particular journey, I'm going to call this blog the Cycling Musings, because that's what it's been all about, hasn't it? But I talked about depression, and change, and the ability and the resourcefulness that we actually do have to deal with change. Interestingly, at the moment, all of my life is in a process of change. So my home life is changing. My work is changing, the way that I live is changing, my finances are changing as some aspects of my work step away in order to enable the space and the time to create different things. A few years ago, that would really have started anxiety and overwhelm within me, but because I've learned over the past few years to deal with and support my energy and to support the processes that I go through, at the moment I feel really in alignment with everything that's happening. Part of that, I think, is because everything feels right, so the changes are happening for the right reasons. They're not changes that are happening because of something I haven't done or something I should have done, and that's maybe another thing to think about. But that ability to deal with change in every area of life at the same time is something that my energy and my mind has just got used to in terms of my ability to cope with change because of the processes that I've had to go through. And it's almost as though, if you want to think about it this way, the process of life has actually taught my energy and taught my mind to trust in it. And at the moment, everything in my life feels like it's in this huge cauldron of change that's being stirred by the universe. Some things I have control over, some things I don't. And at the moment, I really don't know how the recipe that's being cooked up, I don't know the form and the shape. I wouldn't have been able to live easily or comfortably with that. I would have wanted to hold on to something a few years ago. So because of the experiences that I've been through, now is the right time for the changes that have happened and that are currently happening, because I wasn't in the right place within me. So the process of life and trusting in the process of life is really an essential part of allowing us to be that co-creator with the universe, with the Great Spirit. Life knows what it's doing. The circumstances, the experiences that we come into contact with, they all have their part to play in enabling us to unfold, in allowing us to learn who we are, to grow into who we are. And we just need to trust in the process of life and allow that process of life and the process of who we are within that process of life to unfold.